A male teacher at the Minerva Secondary School in Alexandra here in Johannesburg has been suspended after several children accused him of sexual misconduct and sexual harassment. The Gauteng Education Department confirming the news this afternoon. It says a full investigation has now been launched. Learners, along with student bodies and residents from Alexandra, have been protesting outside the school, demanding that action be taken against the teacher. Let's get you more on this now. Bring in Onwabile Lubhelwana, the Gauteng Education Department spokesperson, who's with me here in studio. Welcome to SABC News, Onwabile. So what are the facts on the table as far as the department is concerned on these allegations?
Thank you very much, Tim Migile, and thanks for having us. Firstly, we are dealing with a matter depicting a decay in terms of morality. We are dealing with a 57-year-old who's making advances to a 17-year-old. And the learner has actually resisted and rejected the teacher. But in the content we have, it shows that the teacher was persistent.
Mm. And what exactly was this man saying, 57-year-old, I think you said he was, because the story goes, and you can confirm this or correct me, it's that the learners were on a school-based WhatsApp group, right, where they're meant to communicate things related to their studies, correct? The teacher had access to the same group, then took the number of a pupil or multiple pupils and then began to harass them via text, just to have the story straight.
So you've got a teacher who makes comments such as, you could be my wife, you could be, my girlfriend. And these are teachers who are abusing the trust the public has placed on them, because where do they get the numbers? They get the number from a learning platform, a WhatsApp group meant to help them work better. And they abuse the content to make such advances. But MEC Maile has invited the various communities to say it takes a village to raise a child, mobilizing a social compact to ensure that issues on education and others affecting the sector are resolved by multiple stakeholders. Now, this shows that the MEC is scientific and is justified in terms of this program.
So at Minerva Secondary, is it just one learner who has already come forward with a complaint against the specific teacher, or are there others?
So far, we're dealing with this one learner in terms of Minerva. But in other areas, there are similar instances, which is why I'm saying to you, you are dealing with a collapse of morality. And this is a matter that MEC is quite disturbed about, because MEC Maile believes that we can't have sex pests in schools. It means we can't have the kind of educators who views a learner in that manner. It shows that there are problems in our community, and parents must also assist in terms of how learners are looking at school, in terms of being presentable, informal as a learner. So it needs everyone to participate to ensure that the space is conducive.
But what does that mean, the issue about pupils being presentable at school? How are you linking that to children being harassed by their teachers?
The attempt is not to really link that or justify the dress code of any learner or the behavior of the teacher. But the aim is that learners at school must be taught well in terms of being dressed presentable, and it doesn't justify anything.
But is it not a dangerous thing, Onwabile, to lump those two concepts into one conversation? Because ultimately, whether you're a school girl or an adult woman or any other person, in fact, how you are dressed should never be factored into a conversation as a basis for harassment or sexual violence.
Correctly, it can't be basis. That is why that act is barbaric. Because in that space, you don't even expect that a 57-year-old is going to look at a 17-year-old in that manner. So dress code or not, it doesn't matter. They've got to ensure that we've got teachers who are ethical, who understand that they cannot in the workplace have those kind of relationships with learners.
But the reality is, it's not a new thing, even by your own records.
Yes.
In fact, one could really argue that the abuse of school children by teachers sexually is in fact underreported.
Yes. It is not necessarily underreported because every case, for example, that has been reported to GDE, you discover that there's information made public. In fact, before we came here, we're having a conversation whether or not teachers who've got historical cases on such matters are known in the National Register of Sex Offenders.
And that's lacking because, in fact, just earlier this week, there was an article, it may have been, and I stand to be corrected, the Mail and Guardian that ran a piece that said vetting, in fact, is not at a satisfactory level in terms of teachers who've got a history or were convicted in the past related to sexual violence.
It may not be at some levels, but I can tell you that there's no teacher in this country who gets hired if their name appears there. In fact, should the teacher be sent to be part of the register, they will never get a job anywhere where they must work with children or at a school.
But there's
there
under-vetting,
isn't.
which is the problem, where not enough checks or not in enough cases, can we say, those checks have actually been done. That appears to be the problem.
In terms of the checks, obviously in every system there could be some problems there and there. But in terms of the cases that we have dealt with, we have also been able to check back what happened to a teacher who has committed an offense 10 years ago. And that teacher must appear there. And if not, we send details that this teacher is supposed to be appearing there.
So this teacher now has been suspended. How long do we expect the investigation to go on for until we have an outcome from at least the department's processes? And is there a possibility at this stage, Onwabile, of the police being roped in to investigate?
Tembegile 1, a case is already opened. There is a case with a case number. Now, in terms of the process, it is determined by the merits or determinants of the matter. We can't exactly tell you when will it be done, but we don't think it will take a lengthy and stretchy process. It should be done in time.
And the timing, why was the suspension effected today? Is it because of the public pressure, the protests?
No, it is not. Actually, the teacher had taken a sick leave. And you can see that you are dealing with a person who's morally fatigued because this is a person who's trying to avoid accountability. They take a sick leave instead of taking a responsibility of their actions. It's a person who does not view themselves as wrong. But of course, it is something that the hearing and the process will deal with and look into.
Onwabile Lubhelwana, good to talk to you. Thank you so much for coming into our studio this afternoon. The spokesperson for the Gauteng Education Department speaking to us about the suspension of a teacher at Minerva Secondary School. That's in Alexandra, where a case of sexual harassment has now been opened by one of the pupils there after being harassed allegedly by the teacher.